Hello, author Alex Greenhill here with my copy of one of the books that made me. That would be Everything You'd Ever Want to Know About Monsters and Still Be Able to Get to Sleep by, Daniel Cohen. This is basically the patient zero of my obsession with monsters. It used to have a much prettier cover, but it is basically withered away by time. It was read by me in my public library when I was growing up in New York, and it made quite an impression on me because this is the first time in my little life that somebody combined monsters with humor, and I can explain that through the illustrations here because they were just very, very funny to me. That basically explained different vampire and monster traditions all through history and folklore, historical folklore, excuse me. And there were little cool tidbits like the fact that Latvians and Estonians believed that there were great gatherings of werewolves on Christmas Day. The creatures would roam about in wolf form for 12 days, and then they would turn back into humans. That is really, really cool, and basically ties into the fact probably that Christmas was originally a pagan holiday. In some traditions. And it basically combined horror with humor in a way that was really, really accessible to me when I was a kid. Like, for example, this is kind of making fun of the fact that in real life, the way that mummies were bound up would make it virtually impossible for them to, walk about because they were all bound together by gauze and embalming practices. And also they didn't have any brains or hearts because they were all those organs were jarred up. This book basically put me on the path. Well, that's not very funny, but it's in this book, and this is probably the zombie chapter. Mummies, Zombies, and Artificial Men. I think the only bit of bad information is that I think it gets a lot of the stuff about voodoo wrong. Like, it mixes up the terminology. There's stuff about Bigfoot. Another thing that I was obsessed with for a long time. I remember going so far as to make a kind of show and tell presentation based off cryptozoology, which is, the study of animals that are unrecognized by science, including Bigfoot. Except this is the Abominable Snowman. There's a chapter on them too. And this is just people trying to track down the Yeti. And I have another book that I also kind of stole from a library about the trail, called The Trail of the Abominable Snowman, but that's not really on this list. That was kind of an accident. This was heavily used by me during the writing of Frankenshop. In terms of inspiration, and Frankenshop, in case you just stumbled across my channel, is my one novel that I've published so far. I've got a bunch in the pipeline, including one that's sitting right on my laptop as we speak. And this was just plain cool. And apparently there were plenty of books like this in the 70s. If, also by Daniel Cohen, all these cool things. The Ancient Visitors, which was probably about ancient astronaut theory. Ghostly Animals. Monsters, Giants, and Little Men from Mars. And Mysteries of the World. Very, very cool stuff. Apparently there were a lot of books like this, so it's a little dated. It still mentions that, I think the earliest, the latest version of Dracula that they mention is 74's Dracula with Frank Langella in the vampire chapter. Which means I haven't really looked at the copyright page. According to this, it was published in 1981, so that makes sense. There were a bunch of books like this, and this is just one of many, and I was obsessed with it, and I never forgot it. I don't know why. It just stuck to me. Maybe it's because of the monsters, maybe it's because of the humor combined with the monsters, but this was patient zero for my monster obsession, as I've said before. And this has been one of the books that made me, at least as a writer. Thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe.